Good morning, everybody. Mike Cliff with BNSF Railway. Myself and Laura Thurn are going to be moderating the session this morning. The first paper today is from the Risk and Liability Management area, and the title of this is Planning Ahead for Responsible Soil Management During Redevelopment, the Union Pacific Railroad Soil Management Program. Presenting the paper this morning is going to be Bryan Taylor and Melissa Schop. Quick introduction for each. Bryan is an environmental professional with 20 years of experience in the environmental health and safety consulting industry. His experience includes program management, environmental liability management, waste management, including soil, environmental site assessment, soil and groundwater remediation, environmental construction management, spill response, regulatory compliance, and advocacy. Mr. Taylor's experience includes rail, pipeline, terminal, and retail petroleum projects. Melissa is an attorney with 25 years of regulatory compliance experience. She has been with Union Pacific Railroad for 15 years and is currently Senior Manager in Environmental Site Remediation. In that role, she manages close to 100 remediation sites in 4 states. Additionally, she manages the soil management program for the entire system. Thank you.
Okay, so to give you some background on how the soil management program came to existence at Union Pacific, back in 2013, the site REM group was becoming aware that engineering was handling massive amounts of soil, millions of tons a year. And when they discovered environmental impacts in the soil, they'd call site REM or environmental and say, you need to get rid of my soil today. So we were obviously in a very reactive state, and this caused huge delays in their project timeline while they waited for us to profile the soil and get rid of it. And additionally, there were increased costs in reallocating resources at a moment's notice, rushing lab results, etc. So I thought, what if we collaborate? What if engineering involved environmental in the pre-project planning? We were able to be proactive rather than reactive. We could get engineering everything they need to manage their soil ahead of time. We'd avoid the stockpiling, avoid delays in the project, and avoid the rapid reallocation of resources. So that is what we did. So the number one purpose of the soil management program is to ensure that all soil exported from a UP project is evaluated, characterized, and properly managed. That's the number one thing. So prior to the beginning of the project, engineering lets us know where they're going to be digging, the areas evaluated for past property activities and history. It's characterized for contaminants of concern, and then a soil management plan is developed. So knowing all of this up front, having a soil management plan for engineering in place allows engineering to plan. They identify areas of reuse, which minimizes because we're able to plan for what we're going to find in compliance with local, state, and federal regulations and the protection of all the UP assets. So we're able to really plan. And a robust soil management program that clearly defines the roles, responsibility, and establishes a clear process for soil evaluation limits our environmental liabilities, saves resources by eliminating avoidable project delays. So we do all that up front, and how we get rid of the soil. We also plan for what they're going to bring in. So the program also includes state-specific guidance, establishing criteria for importing soil on UP property, testing criteria, contaminant concentration thresholds, and sample frequency. So we let them know about the export and the import. So the message to engineering about this program, if you have any excess soil, call us. So if a soil evaluation is needed anytime you're going to have excess soil, call us up front. So the program applies to all projects with surplus soil that can't be used within the project area. But we have real flexibility in the program. So, we go from an engineering big construction project to, small little electrical digs. So we consider a work group's budget and schedule. So an evaluation can range from a full soil management technical memo to just a few soil samples with results summarized in an email for them. So here's just some of the work groups it applies to. Again, like we can do any major track construction, siding extensions, cut fill applications, gradings. We do maintenance projects, electrical replacements, water lines, drainage ditch, tire replacements, pavement replacements. This is just some of the groups that we work with. Some of our biggest customers, obviously engineering and track construction is our biggest customer. But we really send the message to the railroad that if you're putting shovel to dirt, give us a call. We want to help you work through it. And you might ask how we get engineering to really comply with the program. So like I said, it really decreases the amount of delays. So they're really incentivized to, that we promise we'll be out of their way by the time they put shovel to dirt. We'll get them everything up front and then we'll be out of their way. And we also pay for the disposal of all the impacted soil. So that's also a little carrot that if you get in touch with us, we're going to help you get rid of your soil.
That's me.
Oh,
thanks, Melissa.
Yes.
So Melissa discussed the program's purpose and applicability. Now let's discuss the actual soil management process. How do we get to that final product, which in this case is the technical memorandum? For continuity, the program has a single point of contact, and that happens to be our co-presenter, Melissa. In addition, the program has its own email address, so all of the soil management correspondence sent to one location. Customer usually, again, engineering, as Melissa indicated, sends a request for project evaluation. That request would typically contain project design plans, the projected schedule, stakeholder contact information. And at that point, that's when we have two questions to ask. Is engineering indicating that this is a net export soil project, or does a project site have a history of industrial activities? If neither one of those are true, then a soil evaluation may not be necessary. However, if either of those are true, then a soil evaluation is going to be required. If an evaluation is required, an environmental consultant or an EPRO in UP terminology is assigned to that project. At that point, the EPRO reviews the design plans, engages with engineering, and develops the sampling plan. Typically, we're not going to mobilize into the field to collect soil samples until we have the 30% design plans from engineering. However, as Melissa indicated, the program is designed to be flexible and to support the needs of our customer. So if engineering indicates that the timeline is compressed, then the evaluation can be expedited. So at this point, the EPRO's got their sampling plan and is ready to mobilize into the field. What's the soil evaluation look like? The EPRO is going to collect soil samples from within the project extent and submit select soil samples for laboratory analysis. We're not quite there yet, Melissa, but that's fine. The sampling plans, as Melissa indicated, are fit for purpose, right? They can be as a few samples collected with a hand auger from one location, or they can be dozens of samples collected over several miles with the direct push rig. Once the evaluation is complete, the EPRO summarizes the results into our final product, which is that tech memo. Next slide, Melissa.
Sorry.
And the tech memo is the tool that the EPRO uses to document the results. The memo is going to clearly delineate the areas sampled. It's going to quantify the constituents of concern identified if there were any constituents of concern. It's going to compare those TOCs against regulatory standards, and then it's going to categorize the soil into one of three classifications. It's going to be soil restricted to off-site disposal only, so no on-site reuse allowed. Soil restricted to preferential reuse on-site, or if we can have a designed reuse of that soil, it can be reused, throughout the project area. If not, then it's going to be off-site disposal. And then lastly, soil with no restrictions, available for reuse as clean fill. As Melissa indicated, the goal here is to limit the surprises for our customer engineering, right? Let the construction team know what's in the soil and how that soil should be managed before the project starts. In addition to summarizing the data, the memo is going to have information designed to assist engineering throughout the bid process, prior to construction, and then during project execution. That draft bid language that we have here, that's the important piece of information. What's found in that draft bid language. It's going to summarize the findings as it relates to soil classification. It's going to list UP approved disposal facilities. It's going to outline the UP's waste management requirements. And then additionally, it's going to give the contractor requirements. As Melissa indicated, the goal here is for us to be a proactive partner. We will answer questions for the GC and the customer prior to and during the bidding process. We'll review bid language with the GC once the project has been awarded, and then we will serve in an advisory role during the construction process. We are here start through project completion. Next slide, Melissa.
Whoops.
Okay, this would be an example of a results table included in the tech memo. In this example, the project areas are delineated by the station numbers. The COCs for each area are identified. The estimated soil volumes are listed, and then the options for soil management are described. The delineation's intent is to provide the construction team the information necessary so they can avoid stockpiling soil. By avoiding stockpiling soil, we eliminate the potential to commingle contaminants. Next slide, Melissa. So the tech memo says that soil disposal will be required. What's next? Well, our esteemed single point of contact, in conjunction with the assigned EPRO, regularly communicates with engineering, right? That is one of the critical components that we talk about as EPROs and with Melissa is constant communication. So communicating implications of scope change, are additional samples going to be required due to that change, evaluating opportunities for designed reuse of soil, and then importantly, ensuring compliance with UP's waste management program. Again, just to reiterate one more time, start to finish, we're here from at the beginning of the project through project completion. We hope the successful project completion. Next slide, Melissa. The import soil qualification. We've discussed export, and Melissa mentioned it. What about importing onto UP property? The import soil qualifications are an important component of a comprehensive soil management program. What's UP's stated requirement? It's really simple. Analytical testing shall be performed on any soil brought into UP property. The import soil qualifications are also going to be included in that contractor bid specification. The qualifications are state specific. They list the required laboratory analysis and sampling methods, and they're going to also provide the sampling frequency required. All of this is the contractor's responsibility. The contractor is responsible for collecting the samples and then subsequently providing that data to UP for review and approval. Next slide, Melissa. To be effective, the program requires the consistent application of the stated process. So to ensure that was happening, guidance documents were developed for the soil management program. And those documents are included in UP's engineering manual. This way, as roles and responsibilities within UP change, the process and the resulting product should remain consistent. The guidance documents outline the process for soil reuse, soil evaluation. They're going to list best management practices, and they include waste disposal documentation. Next slide, Melissa. Remember a few slides ago, we stated that one of the goals of the tech memo was to limit surprises. Keyword here is limit. It's a responsibility of the contractor performing the work to monitor excavation during construction. But what happens when unexpected signs of contamination are observed? Again, there's a documented process. The contractor should stop work, notify UP's construction manager, and then the construction team, in conjunction with the environmental management team, will discuss the observations, the potential hazards, applicable mitigations, and a strategy to keep the project safely moving forward. Those strategies might require rapid mobilization to the project site by the EPRO, soil segregation, additional characterization, or perhaps even HSSE, additional HSSE mitigation. Again, it's a partnership. We're here to support the customer in any way possible to keep the projects and the trains moving forward. Next slide, Melissa, that's you.
Okay, so here are just some of the successes of the program, how many cubic yards we've moved and disposed of. Just one thing I want to highlight, the 67% there identified as unrestricted reuse. This is really speaks to the success of the program, because this is really only identifiable by being proactive. So, you know, when they were just digging up and stockpiling and everything was getting commingled, it wasn't easy to identify soils for reuse. So we identify areas that can be used and not stockpiled. So, and that directly affects the bottom line, which we estimate about the average cost to be about $54 million that we saved by being able to reuse soil. And lastly, just some of the lessons learned, and as the program has evolved, I would say, we've said this a million times, both Bryan and I, but the constant communication and collaboration with engineering is the key to the program's success, is staying in touch with them, supporting them. We are always there to respond to whatever they need. We're only a phone call away. We say it to them repeatedly as things come up. Please let us know. And also the standard documents that Bryan talked about really ensure the knowledge transfer when roles change. You know, it's an ever-evolving workforce. People are coming in and out, moving in and out. And so when we have standard documents in their engineering training program about the soil program, it really keeps that consistency as roles change. And even if a new engineering project manager comes about, all they need to really know is, oh, I'm going to be digging, I need to call Melissa, or I need to call the soil program, and we can get them started. So those are really the key lessons we've learned to the success of the program. And I believe that's it. Do we have any questions?
We do have one question.
Okay.
And if anybody has any further questions now that the presentation is over, you can type them in the question section. So the one that I've got for you is, who pays for characterization and soil disposal?
So that's a great question. Actually, the work group pays for all the sampling and the EPRO's time to characterize it up front. So they, again, this goes back to the communication with engineering. They know that up front, it's part of their project budget is to develop a soil management plan for their bid document. So they pay for everything up, all the soil planning up front.
Okay. That's the only question that I received for
Laura?
this presentation. Yes.
There are actually a couple more. I don't know if you need to scroll on your screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Sorry.
Not a problem.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. So the next question is, what are the most common contaminants of concern?
Want me to take that, Melissa?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll let Bryan take that. I can guess.
Typically, it's metals. In a lot of the country, it's arsenic. And then I also saw how much time between request for soil evaluation to report. Typically, we like to say 4 weeks. I think there's been instances where we've expedited analysis, and tech memos have been generated more quickly. It's important to remember too that a lot of times we are basing our sampling plan off of the 30% design. So there are instances where the design changes by the time it goes to construction. Maybe we'll see that in the 90% design plan. So the ePro is responsible for reviewing those plans as they're revised, and if additional sampling is required because the project extent has changed, then we may go back into the field and collect some additional samples.
I'll just add that our party line to engineering is give us 90 days. So we can turn it, but we ask them to give us a 30% plan and give us at least 60 to 90 days to get out there ahead of them. But we can reactively, and plan, like Bryan said, plans do change from 30% to 90%. So we may have to get out there to grab extra samples.
So Emma, we do have a couple more questions, but how much time do we have left?
We need to be heading on here shortly.
Okay, so how about one more question? Have you ever had soil results that required reporting to a state or federal cleanup program?
Melissa?
Yeah.
Or do you want to come back?
No, you start. You can start, and I'll finish it up.
Okay. I would say yes. We have, and we do. It doesn't necessarily, I think, mean that it's going to have to be a long-term remediation site. But yeah, there are instances where we do have reportable concentrations.
Yep, I was going to say, yeah, we have had hazardous waste come up, but that's just speaks to for us, the benefits of the program. We know that up front, and we take all the necessary precautions and notify the state in time, and yep, so it's all, again, about being proactive.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
For the unanswered questions, we will forward those to the speakers so that they can get those answers back to you offline.
Okay.